Welcome back to the deep dive. I am so ready for this one.
Me too. This one is a classic.
Today we are unpacking something that feels, honestly, a little bit like a magic trick. Or maybe, more accurately, a psychological trap that we all walk into probably every single day.
Oh, every day. Easily.
It's one of those things where once you see it, you cannot unsee it.
It is absolutely a trap. And the fascinating and honestly slightly terrifying thing about this specific trap is that even when you know it's there, even when you have the map and the warning signs, you still might fall right into it.
You still walk right in.
It is baked that deep into our wiring.
I love that. So let's set the scene, because this story starts in a very specific place and time, and the vibe is, well, it's really important. Picture this. It is a Friday afternoon in Israel. The setting is roughly 30 years ago.
A classic Friday afternoon meeting,
Yeah.
the worst kind of meeting.
Exactly. You know that feeling. The weekend is right there. You're wrapping things up. You're feeling good. But this isn't just any office meeting. You have a room full of incredibly smart people.
We're talking top-tier intellects here.
We're talking about a team of experienced teachers, brilliant psychology students, and a dean of a major university. Seriously sharp people.
And not just any team. This is a team assembled by a prominent psychologist, the author of our source material today, specifically to create a high school curriculum.
And a curriculum on what exactly?
On judgment and decision-making.
That is the irony that we're going to be coming back to again and again. These people are literally the experts on making good decisions.
That is their job description.
They have been meeting every Friday afternoon for a year. They've got a detailed syllabus. They've written a couple of chapters. They've run some sample lessons. They're feeling good. They're feeling effective.
They're experiencing what psychologists call flow. It's that wonderful state where everything clicks, progress feels inevitable, and the team feels like a single cohesive unit.
Like they're unstoppable.
And that feeling, that warmth of progress, is exactly what blindsides them.
Right. It lulls them into a false sense of security. So on this particular Friday, the author, let's call him the team leader, he decides to run a little exercise.
A little experiment on his own team.
He wants to practice a technique they're actually planning to teach the high schoolers. It's about estimating uncertain quantities.
The technique is pretty standard now in forecasting circles, but it was pretty innovative then. The idea is that if you want an accurate estimate from a group, you don't just open the floor for discussion immediately. If you do that, what happens?
The loud guy talks first. The hippio, the highest paid person's opinion wins.
Exactly. The loud people dominate, or the boss speaks and everyone just nods. Or people anchor on the first number they hear. But it says 6 months, so I guess I'll say 7 months. You lose the independent wisdom of the crowd.
You get groupthink instead of group genius.
Precisely. So instead, you have everyone write down their estimate confidentially first.
No peeking.
No peeking. Pure independent thought.
So the leader asks everyone in the room, including himself, to write down the answer to one simple question. How long will it take us to submit a finished draft of this textbook to the Ministry of Education?
A simple question. They've been working for a year. They know the pace. They know the material. They know each other. This should be easy.
You'd think so. So they all write down their numbers. The leader collects the slips of paper, and the results are incredibly consistent. I mean, they are tightly clustered.
But you give them confidence, right? When everyone independently comes up with the same answer.
It absolutely does. The most optimistic person, maybe the eager grad student, says 1.5 years. The most pessimistic says 2.5 years. The consensus is a solid, confident 2 years.
2 years to finish. Keep that number in your head. 2 years. That is their reality. That is their plan.
And this is where the trap snaps shut, because the leader turns to one specific member of the team, a man named Seymour Fox. Now, Seymour isn't just a team member, he is the heavyweight in the room regarding logistics.
He's the subject matter expert on this stuff.
Yeah. He's an expert in curriculum development. He's the dean of the Hebrew University School of Education. He's seen this movie before, many, many times.
And this is the pivot point of our entire deep dive today. This is the moment where we move from the inside view to the outside view.
The leader asks Seymour, Seymour, can you think of other teams similar to ours? Teams that developed a curriculum from scratch?
A pretty innocent-sounding question.
And Seymour says yes. It was the era of new math, lots of pedagogical innovation. He knew of quite a few similar teams.
So far, so good. He has the data. He has the reference class.
And then the leader asks the killer follow-up question. This is the one. He asks, think of those teams when they were at the same stage we are at right now. Syllabus done, a couple of chapters written. How long from that point did it take them to finish?
I want you to really visualize this moment. The room is quiet. Everyone is feeling good about their 2-year estimate. They are expecting Seymour to say, oh, about 2 years? You guys are right on track.
Yeah. But the reaction is just visceral. The source says Seymour fell silent. He actually started blushing.
He was blushing because he was embarrassed. Because the answer he had to give, the truth derived from actual data, contradicted everything the group had just decided. It contradicted his own intuition from 5 minutes earlier.
He finally speaks up and he says, I never realized this before, but in fact, not all the teams at a stage comparable to ours ever did complete the task.
Oh.
He continues. A substantial fraction of the teams ended up failing to finish the job.
Just pause on that. They estimated 2 years, reality says. A huge chunk of people who start this never finish. They give up, they burn out, the project dies on the vine.
The leader gets a little anxious. You can feel the mood in the room starting to shift. He asks, okay, how large is a substantial fraction?
Like 10%, 15.
And Seymour says, about 40%.
40. 40. So right off the bat, before we even talk about timelines, you have a near coin flip chance of total failure. A 40% mortality rate for the project.
That is staggering. Imagine starting a business and knowing there is a 40% chance you just walk away with nothing. Well, actually, that is probably true for businesses too, but we never think about it that way.
We certainly don't. We assume we are the 60%. We are the heroes of our own story.
But surely, for the ones who did finish, they must be fast, right? They must be the good teams. So the leader asks, those who finished, how long did it take them?
This is the moment of truth.
And Seymour drops the bomb. He says, I cannot think of any group that finished in less than 7 years, nor any that took more than 10.
7 to 10 years.
7 to 10 years. And remember, the group just wrote down 2 years on their slips of paper. The disconnect there is massive. It's not just a small error in estimation.
It's a different reality entirely.
You have a room full of experts predicting 2 years, while history screams 7 to 10 years with a 40% chance of never finishing at all.
This is the essence of the conflict between the inside view and the outside view. And what happens next is arguably even more fascinating than the numbers themselves. It's how the human brain, even a genius brain, tries to resolve that conflict.
Oh, absolutely. Because the leader, the author, he's desperate at this point. He's the one who assembled this team. He's trying to rationalize this. He tries to save the narrative.
He doesn't want to accept the data.
He asks Seymour, okay, but compare us to them. How good are we? Are we better than those other teams?
He's looking for an escape hatch. He wants Seymour to say, oh, those other teams were disorganized. They were dealing with bureaucracy. You guys are geniuses. You'll beat the odds because you are you. You are special.
But Seymour doesn't say that. He's honest. He pauses, thinks about it, and says, we're below average, but not by much.
That is a crushing moment, or it should have been. The double blow.
No.
Not only is the task harder than you think, but you're not even the best team to do it.
It should have been. Seymour effectively just said, we are statistically likely to fail or take a decade, and we aren't even an exceptional team. But here is the crazy part. The truly mind-bending part.
Go on.
Seymour, moments earlier, had also written down 2 years on his slip of paper.
Of course he did.
This is the cognitive dissonance. Seymour had 2 completely contradictory beliefs in his head at the exact same time. Belief A, we are doing great, we'll be done in 2 years. This is the inside view. It feels right. It's based on his feelings about this specific project.
And belief B, teams like ours take 7 years or fail. This is the outside view. It's based on data, on history, and until he was forced to connect them, those 2 beliefs never even met. They lived in different rooms of his brain.
It's like he had one set of knowledge for forecasting and another set of knowledge for evaluating his own team.
And they never overlapped. That's the key. The human mind is an expert at partitioning information to avoid uncomfortable truths.
So what does the team do with this information? They're sitting there. The source says a pall of gloom descended on the room. The Friday afternoon vibe is completely ruined. Do they quit? Do they say, wow, 7 years is too long, let's stop?
The rational choice, maybe.
Maybe. But no, they do what almost everyone does. They treat the statistics as base rates. They note them. They say, that's interesting. Maybe they make a joke about it. And then they promptly set them aside and ignore them.
It's like, thanks for the data points, Seymour. Now about chapter 3.
They carried on as if nothing had happened. That is wild to me. They just kept going.
They kept going. They essentially said, well, those stats apply to other people, not to us. And we will find out later how that turned out for them. Spoiler alert, it's not great. But first, we need to really unpack why this happens. Why did they ignore the data? Why do we all ignore the data?
This brings us to section 2 of our discussion, deconstructing the inside view. What exactly is going on in our brains when we are in this mode? Because it feels so natural.
It feels natural because it is our default setting. It's how we naturally look at the world. When you take the inside view, you focus on your specific circumstances.
Right, on the details.
You look at the evidence right in front of your nose. You look at the specific details of the problem at hand, your unique talents, the resources you have.
In the curriculum team's case, they were looking at the 2 chapters they had written. They were looking at their detailed syllabus.
Exactly. And they were looking at their own enthusiasm. They were looking at the smiles across the table. They were looking at how well they worked together on Fridays. And they were extrapolating.
We wrote 2 chapters in a year, so we can write the rest in 2 more years. It's linear thinking. It seems logical on the surface.
It does. It's like saying, I ran a mile in 10 minutes, so I can run a marathon in, what, 260 minutes?
Yeah.
A little over 4 hours.
Which sounds plausible if you've never run more than a mile.
Right. But a marathon isn't just 26 individual miles strung together. It's endurance, it's cramping, it's dehydration, it's hitting the wall. The inside view suffers from a massive cognitive bias called WYSIAT. WYSIATI.
What you see is all there is. I love that acronym. It can explain so much about human stupidity.
It really does. It explains why we jump to conclusions. The brain is a machine for jumping to conclusions. It constructs the best possible story it can based only on the available information.
Crucially, it doesn't ask, what information am I missing?
Never. It just says, based on what I see, this is the truth. It prizes coherence over completeness.
So the team assumed that the chapters they had already written, which were likely the easiest ones, by the way, the introductory chapters,
Of course.
they assumed those were representative of the whole project. They assumed their current enthusiasm would last forever. They took the information they had, which was positive, and built a coherent, optimistic story around it.
But a coherent story isn't necessarily a true story. In fact, the most coherent stories are often the most deceptive because they leave out the messiness of reality.
Precisely. Because what does the inside view miss? It misses the unknown unknowns.
The famous Donald Rumsfeld concept.
He got a lot of flack for that quote at the time, but it's brilliant. It's philosophically perfect.
It is. There are things we know. There are things we know we don't know, the known unknowns, like we need to research chapter 5. And then there are things we don't know. The inside view is completely blind to that last category.
It's blind to the chaos of reality. The source lists some of these things that derailed the other teams Seymour knew about: divorces, illnesses, crises of coordination with bureaucracies.
Exactly. You can't put project manager gets the flu for 2 weeks on a Gantt chart. You can't put the Ministry of Education changes its submission guidelines halfway through on a timeline.
You can't put my lead writer gets a divorce and loses focus for 3 months on a spreadsheet. But these things happen. They happen constantly.
They are the background radiation of life. They're not exceptions. They're the norm.
And when you are taking the inside view, you assume a best-case scenario where none of those things happen. You assume a frictionless vacuum.
It's like when I plan my drive to the airport, I look at the distance on the map and say it's 30 minutes away. I don't factor in a flat tire. I don't factor in a massive accident blocking the highway.
But if you looked at the outside view, the statistics of driving to that airport at that time of day, you might see that, on average, with traffic and incidents, it takes 45 minutes.
That is a perfect example. The inside view is, my car is working, the road looks clear right now. The outside view is, traffic in this city is unpredictable, and this is rush hour. And here's the kicker.
Go on.
The other teams Seymour knew, the ones that took 7 years, they probably started with a 2-year plan too. They didn't foresee their divorces or their bureaucratic crises either. They stood in a room, just like the author's team, and said, we can do this in 2 years.
So we are all just walking around thinking we are special, thinking we're the exception to the rule.
In a way, yes. There is actually a moral overtone to the inside view. We hate being treated as a statistic. We call it the snowflake syndrome.
I am not a number. I am a human being.
Exactly. The source mentions the author's cousin, who was a lawyer.
Right. He asked her a very simple, data-driven question. He said, what is the probability of the defendant winning in cases like this one? He was asking for the reference class, the stats.
He was trying to apply the outside view to her profession, to her case.
And she did not like that.
She hated it. The source says she snapped back, every case is unique.
She felt insulted. She felt that reducing her case to a mere statistic was superficial, that it ignored the nuance.
It feels like it devalues your expertise, right? Like, I don't need statistics. I know the details of this case. I know the judge. I know the jury. I know the evidence.
My skill as a lawyer is the unique factor here.
Exactly. And we see this in medicine, too. This is a huge issue. Doctors often resist evidence-based checklists or statistical probabilities because they feel it's impersonal. They want to rely on their clinical intuition about this specific patient,
They say statistics are for populations. I treat individuals.
which sounds noble, but the data shows that the checklists and the statistics usually lead to better outcomes.
Almost always. The algorithm usually beats the expert. The simple checklist prevents infections better than a surgeon's memory.
But we prefer the inside view because it feels more true to our personal experience. It feels authentic, it validates our agency and our expertise, but statistically, it's usually wrong.
That is the tragedy. The inside view feels warm and personal. The outside view feels cold and distant. But the outside view is where the truth usually lives.
And when you ignore the outside view, when you refuse to look at the base rates, you end up with what the author and his partner Amos coined as the planning fallacy.
The planning fallacy. This is a huge concept in behavioral economics. Let's define it clearly for the listeners.
It has two main characteristics. First, your forecasts and plans are unrealistically close to a best-case scenario. You are planning for the sun to shine every day.
You're not building in any buffer for the unknown unknown.
Not at all. And second, your estimates could be significantly improved if you just looked at the statistics of similar cases.
So it's not just being optimistic, it's being willfully blind. It's being optimistic when you have data that says you shouldn't be.
Precisely. It's an error that is easily correctable if you just look outside your own bubble.
The source material has some absolute horror stories about this. I mean, truly wallet-hurting, taxpayer-infuriating examples. The one that stood out to me was the Scottish Parliament building in Edinburgh.
Oh, that is a classic. It's a textbook definition of the planning fallacy. If you look up planning fallacy in the dictionary, there should be a picture of that building.
So let's walk through the numbers here, because they are staggering. It starts in 1997. The British government devolves power to Scotland, and they need a new parliament building. The initial estimate, £40 million.
40 million. A reasonable number for a major government building. Seems plausible.
Okay, jump forward 2 years, 1999. The estimate is now £109 million.
Wait, so it's already more than doubled in just 2 years?
Yeah.
Before they've even really broken ground in a major way.
More than doubled. But they kept going because, sunk costs. By 2000, the legislators are getting nervous, the public is angry, so they do what politicians do. They impose a cap on costs.
Ah, yes, the magic cap.
They say, okay, that's it. We are drawing a line in the sand. We are capping this at £195 million.
A cap implies control. But you can't cap reality. You can't cap the price of steel or the complexity of the design just by passing a resolution. It's performative.
No, you cannot. By 2001, they demand a final cost estimate. It's set at £241 million. So we've blown past the cap. The cap was a joke.
The line in the sand got washed away. And they still aren't done.
Not even close. The final cost rose twice more in 2002, 3 times more in 2003. When the building was finally completed in 2004, the ultimate cost was roughly £431 million.
From 40 million to 431 million. That is more than 10 times the original estimate. A 1,000% overrun.
How does that happen? How do professional planners, architects, and government officials get it wrong by a factor of 10? These aren't amateurs renovating a basement. These are the top firms in the world.
It happens because planners cannot imagine how much wishes will grow over time. They start with a simple plan. Then someone says, well, we need a better debating chamber. Then we need better security. Then the materials need to be sourced locally.
The dreaded scope creep.
Exactly. The scope creeps. But the initial anchor, that 40 million, was based on a fantasy of a frictionless process. They never looked at the reference class of complex government buildings, which almost always run massively over budget.
They treated their project as unique when it was actually depressingly typical.
Precisely. And it's not just buildings. The source mentions a study on global rail projects. This one is depressing if you're a taxpayer.
I'm ready. Hit me with it.
This was a massive study covering 30 years, from 1969 to 1998. It looked at rail projects worldwide, high-speed rail, subways, light rail. And in 90% of the cases, 9 out of 10, the number of passengers projected to use the system was overestimated.
Overestimated by how much? 10%, 20,
On average, they overestimated usage by 106%.
106. So they basically thought double the number of people would ride the trains than actually did.
They built it for 1 million riders a day and got 500,000. And at the same time, the average cost overrun was 45%.
So they cost almost 50% more to build and deliver half the value they promised.
That sums it up. It's a double whammy of failure. But here's the part that really scares me. The part that shows how deep this fallacy runs.
Okay.
The source says that over those 30 years, the experts did not get better.
That is the crucial point. You would think, okay, we messed up the subway in 1970, so by 1980, we'll have learned our lesson, we'll adjust our models.
No. The error was persistent. The planners in 1998 were making the exact same proportional mistakes as the planners in 1969. They were relying on the inside view every single time. A whole new generation of planners came up, and they learned nothing from the history of their own field.
It's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
And let's bring it down to a level the listener might actually experience. Kitchen renovations.
Oh, the dreaded kitchen reno. Everyone has a horror story.
A 2002 survey found that homeowners expected their kitchen remodel to cost about $18,600. That was the average budget.
Seems low now, but back then, reasonable. That's what you tell yourself you're going to spend.
The average actual cost,
Right.
nearly $39,000. Double.
Double? Why? Is it because we just buy more expensive tile? Oh, I see that Italian marble and I just have to have it.
Partially. Scope creep is real for homeowners too. But it's also the contractors. The source notes something very cynical but true. Contractors know that once a project is started, it rarely gets canceled.
You can't live with a half-demolished kitchen.
You're a hostage in your own home. You have no sink. You have no stove. You're eating takeout on the floor. You have to pay.
You're completely trapped.
Exactly. So they present an optimistic plan to get you to sign the contract. They quote you the low number. They know the costs will go up because of unforeseen issues, and they know you'll pay it because you're trapped.
That's what the source calls strategic deception.
Right. Sometimes the planning fallacy isn't just an innocent mistake born of optimism. Sometimes it's a tactic. Planners, contractors, even military generals, they know that if they present a realistic plan, this will take 10 years and cost $1 billion, they will never get approved.
So they present the delusional plan, 2 years, 100 million to get the green light. They lie to get their foot in the door.
And once the project is started, once millions are spent, it's almost impossible to kill. That's the sunk cost fallacy again.
So we are incentivizing delusion. The entire system, from government contracts to kitchen remodels, often rewards the most optimistic liar.
We absolutely are. We reward the person who promises the moon and the stars, and we ignore the person who tells us the truth about how hard it's going to be.
That is deeply frustrating. So, okay, we've established that the inside view is natural, it's seductive, and it's usually dead wrong, and it costs us billions of dollars and years of our lives. So how do we fix it? Is there a fix?
There is a fix, but you have to be willing to swallow a bitter pill. You fix it by forcing yourself to take the outside view. And there is a specific methodology for this developed by a Danish planning expert named Bent Flyvjerk.
Flyvjerk, cool name.
Very cool guy.
Yeah.
He's at Oxford now. He's the one who did that rail study we mentioned. And he developed a system called reference class forecasting. It's basically the cure for the planning fallacy.
Okay, I'm ready for the cure. Walk us through it. How does it work?
It's a beautifully simple 3-step process. Step 1, identify the reference class.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means you have to ask, what kind of project is this?
Huh?
Is it a kitchen renovation? Is it a high-speed railway? Is it a high school curriculum? You have to find a category of similar past projects.
Okay, so you categorize it. You strip away the specialness of your project and see it as just another instance of a common type.
Exactly. You stop looking at the unique details and look at the category. Step 2, obtain the statistics. You need to find out what the average failure rate or cost overrun or timeline is for that class of project. This gives you your baseline prediction.
So if I'm renovating a kitchen, I shouldn't start by looking at my budget. I should start by looking at the average cost of all kitchen renovations in my area.
Exactly. The source uses the analogy of guessing the height of a woman in New York. If you know absolutely nothing about her except that she lives in New York, what is your best guess?
The average height of women in New York. I guess 5'4" or whatever it is.
Correct. You don't guess 6'5" just because you feel like she's tall. You start with the average. That is your baseline. Everything else is noise until you have more data.
Okay, that makes sense. So identify the class, get the stats, and then step 3.
Step 3 is adjust. Use specific information about your case to adjust from the baseline.
Ah, so this is where you get to bring the inside view back a little bit. You're not throwing it out completely.
Just a little bit, and very carefully. You ask, are there specific, credible reasons to think we are better or worse than the average? If you are a kitchen contractor who has done 50 kitchens and never gone over budget, maybe you could adjust that $39,000 estimate down a bit.
But, and this is key, you start from the average, not from your wishful thinking. You anchor on reality first.
Precisely. In the curriculum story, this is exactly what Seymour did not do initially. He started with the inside view. If he had used this method, he would have said, okay, step 1, we're a curriculum team. Step 2, the average time for this reference class is 7 to 10 years with a 40% failure rate. That's our baseline. Step 3, are we special? Am I and my colleagues demonstrably better than all those other teams?
And his own answer was, no, we're below average. So his prediction should have been even worse than the baseline. Maybe 9 years.
Exactly. It sounds so simple, right? Just look at the data.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to do in practice.
Because organizations hate this. I can just imagine walking into my boss's office and saying, hey, based on the average performance of teams like ours, I'm going to need double the budget and triple the time you've allocated.
They hate it. It sounds like defeatism. It sounds like you're not a team player. You're not being ambitious.
The source has this great quote from an official talking to Philippe Berg. He says, a budget reserve is to contractors as red meat is to lions, and they will devour it.
This is the organizational dilemma. If a manager says, this project will cost $10 million, but I'm setting aside $5 million for unknown unknowns, the contractors see that $5 million and say, great, that's ours.
They just expand the scope to eat the money. There's no incentive to be efficient.
Right. And also, if you are an executive competing for resources and you present a realistic, slow, expensive plan, you're going to lose the funding to the guy down the hall presenting a delusional, fast, cheap plan. It's a market failure within the organization.
The system selects for the best liar.
Often, yes. So the fix, according to the source, is that organizations must penalize failure to anticipate unknown unknowns.
You have to change the incentives. You have to stop rewarding the optimistic liar when their project inevitably fails, and start rewarding the accurate realist, even if their news is bad.
You have to make the forecaster accountable for the outcome, not just for getting the project approved.
So let's go back to our Friday afternoon team, the dream team of psychologists. They heard the outside view, Seymour told them. 40% failure, 7 to 10 years. They felt gloom. And then they ignored it and kept working. What happened to them?
This is the ultimate failure, as the outline calls it.
Yeah.
And it is a testament to irrational perseverance. It's the final, painful chapter of the story.
Did they finish in 2 years?
No.
Did they finish in 3?
No.
How long did it take? Don't tell me.
Took them 8 years.
8 years. So Seymour's outside view prediction, 7 to 10 years, was dead on, right in the middle of the range.
Accurately predicted. Reality undefeated. The base rate wins again.
And surely after 8 years of work by top experts, the Ministry of Education loved the book, and it became the gold standard for teaching decision-making.
You would hope so. All that effort had to be for something, right?
Please tell me it was worth it.
No. By the time they finished, 8 years later, the world had moved on. The Ministry of Education had changed. The initial enthusiasm was gone. The officials who commissioned it had moved on to other jobs. The new math craze was over.
So the book was delivered.
And it was never used.
Ouch. That hurts my soul. 8 years of Friday afternoons, all that intellectual firepower, for nothing.
And the author, remember, he's a Nobel Prize winner, eventually, one of the smartest minds of his generation. He looks back on this and calls himself the chief dunce and an inept leader.
Why? Because he didn't pull the plug.
Exactly. He says they should have quit that day. On that Friday afternoon, when they heard the stats, the rational decision would have been to say, the expected value of this project is negative. We are likely to fail, and even if we succeed, it will take too long, and the world might not even want it then. Let's go home.
But they couldn't do it. Why? What was holding them back?
The sunk cost fallacy. They had already invested a year. They didn't want to admit that year was wasted.
We've come this far. We can't stop now.
The most dangerous phrase in business. And also, just plain embarrassment. It would have been humiliating to give up. To go to the dean and say, yeah, that project we were so excited about, we're killing it.
So it was easier to march on toward a predictable failure than to face a small failure right now.
The source describes their state as lethargy. It was easier to ignore the bad news and just keep showing up on Fridays than to face the cold, hard reality of the statistics.
Facing a choice, they gave up rationality rather than give up the enterprise.
It's a powerful lesson. And it connects to a broader theory of risk that the author developed later in his career with a colleague, Dan Lovallo.
Tell me about that.
So the standard economic model says people take risks because they have calculated the odds and decided the reward is worth the gamble. I'll bet on this long shot because the payout is huge and I understand the low probability.
Rational risk-taking.
Right. But the author and Lovallo say, no. That's not why people take most major risks. People take risks, they start wars, they open restaurants, they file lawsuits because they don't know the odds.
They are acting on delusional optimism. They think the odds are much better than they actually are.
Exactly. They are trapped in the inside view. They spin scenarios of success and overlook the potential for mistakes. This is why people litigate, start wars, and open small businesses despite the incredibly high failure rates in all those domains.
If they knew the true odds, the outside view, they probably wouldn't do it.
The data says most small businesses fail. The data says most lawsuits settle for less than the cost of litigation. But every single person starting one thinks, but my business is different. My case is unique.
So in a weird way, the economy runs on the planning fallacy. If everyone was a perfect rationalist using reference class forecasting, maybe we wouldn't have any restaurants or startups.
That is the paradox. The world might be a much more stagnant place if everyone used reference class forecasting. We need the delusional optimist to try crazy things. But as individuals, if you want to protect your own bank account and your own time, don't be one of them. Or at least know the odds before you bet.
That's a fascinating tension. We need this bias for society to progress, but it's poison for our individual plans.
Right. You want other people to be delusional optimists, but you should be a cold-eyed realist yourself.
So let's bring this all home. What are the big takeaways for our listener today?
First, and this is the big one, the inside view is natural, but usually wrong. It ignores unknown unknowns. It focuses on what is unique about you rather than what is common about your situation.
Second, the outside view, using base rates and statistics, feels cold and impersonal, but it is usually right. It's your best anchor to reality.
And third, the planning fallacy is everywhere. It's in the Scottish Parliament, it's in your kitchen renovation, it's in your own to-do list for tomorrow.
And the cure, the only real cure, is reference class forecasting. Identify the class, get the stats, and then adjust. Look at similar projects, not your own hopes. I want to leave the listener with a final thought from the author. It's something that has really stuck with me. He mentions that he is now wiser, he is now trained to look for the outside view, but he says it will never be the natural thing to do.
You have to force it. It takes effort every single time. Your brain will always want to default back to the easy, coherent story of the inside view.
So here is our challenge to you. Think of a project you are currently working on, or a prediction you're making. Maybe it's a renovation, maybe it's a work project, maybe it's how long it will take you to learn a new language.
Catch yourself doing the inside view. Catch yourself saying, well, I am really motivated, or my team is different.
And instead, force yourself to ask the cold question, what happened to everyone else who tried this? Go find the stats, go find the base rate, be the Seymour Fox in your own life.
But actually listen to the answer.
Exactly. Don't be the Seymour who knows the data but writes down 2 years anyway. Don't spend 8 years writing a book nobody reads.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
See you next time.